Hugh Bigelow,
Present.
Tricia Boyer,
Present.
Albert Garcia,
Present.
Susan Anderson, Steve McKenzie,
Present.
Eduardo Raulez,
Present.
Marshall Regal,
Here.
Raquel Schatz,
Present.
Ward Stanford,
Present.
Tessa Wessel,
Present.
Hong Huo,
I'm here.
April Wire,
Present.
Simon Ramos,
I'm here, but Bruce Littleton's also here, and he's representing Phoenix.
thank you. Marty Zeke, or Zeke, I'm sorry.
Yep, Marty Zeke, present.
Let's see. Susan Anderson, Alan Galicia, all right, looks like we're having some audio issues for a couple. Is there anybody who I did not call upon?
Good morning, David. This is Srini, Sid Chandler.
Good morning, Trini.
Good morning. This is
Anyone
Alan
else?
Glendale.
Good morning, Alan. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. This is Jeff King from the Arizona FHWA division for Tony Whitfield.
Thank you, Jeff. Anyone else I have not mentioned? All right, with that, we have quorum. So today's meeting of the MAG ITS committee is called to order. Just as a reminder, please mute your microphone to eliminate any feedback. You will have the opportunity to raise your hand in the chat to be recognized, at which time you can unmute your microphone to speak. You can always also use the chat to type in a question or comment. And when you begin speaking, please state your name and your organization. With that, we will move on to item 2 on the agenda, which is called to the audience. Members of the public are asked to submit written comments related to this meeting through the MAG website. Comments may be sent in at any time leading up to the meeting, but must be received at least 1 hour before the posted start time. This is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that fall under MAG jurisdiction, but are not on the agenda or on the agenda for discussion and not for action. MAG staff, do we have any public comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the ITS committee, we received no comments for this item or any other item on the agenda.
Thank you, Omar. Next on the agenda is item 3, approval of minutes. We will, if everyone would please take a few moments to review the minutes from the March 3rd, 2021 meeting. And I will need a motion to recommend approval.
This is April Wire with McDOT. I motion to approve the minutes.
Second,
Thank you.
this is Bruce.
Thank you, April and Bruce. All right, with that, I will poll each of you in turn. Please indicate your approval or disapproval with the motion. Let's begin with Susan.
Approve.
Hugh,
Approve.
Tricia,
Approve.
Alan,
Yay.
Albert,
Approve.
Srini,
Approved.
Hong,
I approve.
Bruce,
Approve.
Steve,
Approve.
Eduardo,
Approved.
Marshall,
Approved.
Raquel,
Approved.
Ward,
Approved.
Tessa.
Approved.
All right. With that, the motion is passes, and no revision for noted. So we will move on to item 4 on the program manager's report. TISMO program manager Jeff Jenk will now provide updates and a report to the committee. Jeff?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. To start with my program manager's report, I would like to start with the federal highway updates. Today, we're happy to have Mr. Jeff King of Federal Highway Local Division to report on behalf of Tony Whitfield. And Jeff is no stranger to the ITS. This is someone who, with his previous career as a DPS, he was accredited for bringing the traffic incident management to the Phoenix area. Again, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. And I think coming forward the slide to my opportunities, 3 different opportunities I wanted to share with you. First, we'll talk about the National Work Zone Awareness Week, which is a week that highlights the importance of work zone safety and everyone's role in work zone safety. This year, the National Work Zone Awareness Week is April 26th through the 30th. The Go Orange Day, as always, is typically on that Wednesday, which will be April 28th. So everybody get out your orange shirts. I've got mine all picked out and ready to go. It's the one time other than Halloween that I get to wear it. And then you can find additional information at the web link that's provided on the slide. The next thing I want to share is the MUTCD notice for proposed amendment webinars and recordings. There are 3 informational webinars on the MUTCD notice of proposed amendment that provide an overview of the proposed changes and information on the amendment process. The recordings of these webinars are posted on the MUTCD website, and you can see the second bullet there. It gives you that website. And as a reminder, the MUTCD NPA comment period closes on May 14th of 2021. The last opportunity I'll share with you is the 2021 Operations Academy program. This year, well, typically the Operation Academy is a 2-week in-person competitive program that's held at the, I think it was still being held at the Maritime facility in Maryland. And it's designed for a total immersion into the subject of TSMO, and is typically made up of attendees from various disciplines. I can tell you, I highly recommend this as a graduate of, I think, the 2012 class. It's been so long ago. A great program. but it is currently open for nominations this year. However, the Academy, like so many other things, will be a 10-day virtual program held over 3 weeks in October and November. Nominations are actually due June 4th of 2021. Hopefully the fact that it's virtual, while it's a bummer you don't get to travel there and enjoy that great food, it may open some opportunities because you know you won't have to travel. For more information on the Ops Academy, take a look at that web link there at the second bullet. And if we can jump to the next slide, please. Share real quick, just some quick publications. There's 4 of them. The first one, Automated Vehicle Impacts on Highway Infrastructure. This describes potential impacts of automated vehicles on the highway infrastructure. It attempts to identify the state of practice among infrastructure owners and operators, gaps in knowledge, and agency preparedness levels. And you can find that document at that link. The coordination of IT and TSM&O, this is a quick read, 4-page flyer that highlights the aspects of coordination between information technology, or IT, and TSM&O in transportation agency. With the role of IT becoming increasingly central to TSM&O, it is imperative that the 2 disciplines have common understanding and obviously work together to accomplish the task. Again, a link is provided. Third report, this report summarizes the discussion and findings of a February 2020 peer exchange. The peer exchange brought together 20 TSM&O leaders to share valuable information about their agency's experience with advancing and implementing TSM&O. And then the last, this report satisfies a FAST Act requirement, which FHWA must complete a ATC MTD program report every 3 years. The report presents an overview of the ATC MTD projects by highlighting performance measures, lessons learned, deployment plan, effectiveness findings, and impacts of the technology and deployment projects. And there's the link for that. I thank you, Jeff, and I thank the chair and the ITS committee for giving me this opportunity to share these highlights from Ms. Tony Whitfield, who could not make it today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Next item, please. Next item is yet another announcement of this upcoming nomination for the vice chair of the ITS committee. We need a letter of interest from you by May 3rd. And that decision will be made by the executive committee by May 17th. Next item, please. This item is to reiterate this ongoing preparation for the call for project of the SM&O plan, competitive project for FY 2023 and 2024. The effort started on March 24th. We're having a series of working group planned. We're currently completed the first 2 of them. And what's shown on the screen is the kind of roadmap for the working group meetings. And as you know that the first 2 meetings, we have tried to address these important programming rule regarding the call for projects. And the next working group meeting gonna be next week, April 14th. We'll be looking at more of a technicality side regarding how these data could be measured, can be automated, and also will follow by the review of the evaluation tools and how we actually score and rate these projects. I would like to encourage those who have not been able to participate, because this is clearly, as well, we learned from the first 2 meetings, it's more than just addressing the technicality. There are a lot of discussions, and I hope that in that we will promote the collaboration between the agency in developing some regionally significant projects. Finally, I'd like to remind that this year's call for project is expected to be released on August 2nd of 2021. Next item, please. This item is to provide a heads up with the committee on the need to reallocate this particular line item in the SMNO Phase 1 investment plan that is for the static wayfinding signs. This concerned a $4 million line item in the SMNO plan, as shown in the bottom, at the bottom of the slide. This is from the budget sheets. That is $4 million for deploying the static detour wayfinding sign in support of ICM operations. As committee might remember that in July 2019, we had a presentation to describe and look into the requirement for this particular line item. And in that, we've learned that that project was modeled after the Sendex ICM, their version of the static wayfinding sign. So there was a discussion followed that presentation, and a decision was made by the committee to defer that particular line item to the later year. Next slide, please. So these are the pictures shown in that July 2019 presentation describing what the Sendex version of the static wayfinding signs are. I think the main concern has been that Sendex detour route and all that are strictly defined, and they are named and hard-coded, as shown in this particular example, that you're literally advising people to go on an alternate route E, left turn and go straight for the alternate route F. And it's also hard-coded in the overall ICM strategy that the same information will be shown on the DMS, on the freeway. The picture on the right shows the scenario that the Sendex is dealing with. The main concern is I-15, during the midst of the heavy commute period, something happened, and how do you advise people to get off the freeway and how to direct them to be back to their route. As you could see that these alternate route itself, they do not resemble what we have here in Phoenix, which is almost like a perfect grid network. So we could understand the merit of this kind of static wayfinding sign for Sendex, but for Phoenix, in our discussion, we felt that this is something that we probably would not do here in the Phoenix area. So next slide, please. So the things that need to happen is we need to have a discussion on how we could use this money for. And the suggestion is in a working group setting. And since we already have these TIP working group going on, we will likely be piggybacking this discussion in one of these working group. And I would notify the committee member when that happens. The second thing is once the working group reach a decision, a recommendation need to be made at the ITS committee and approved by the ITS committee. And with that, this recommendation would need to be escalated through the chain of command, all these committees in a MAG, ultimately approved by regional council for plan amendment. And with that, we could issue a call for project if it's still a competitive nature. Next slide, please. Next item is to provide a recap on the synchro training that is ongoing. I know my understanding is that we'll finish a few of them, and there's one yet to happen in a week. So I would like to invite Omar to give an update on this one. And thanks, Omar, for the excellent organization of these virtual synchro training. Omar.
Thank you, Jeff. Mr. Chair, members of the ITS committee, in January of 2021, we posted a survey to the MEG ITS committee to solicit your input and requests to attend the synchro training from your agency staff. In the survey and some emails following that, we received around 37 to 38 requests to attend the synchro training. We then contracted with Trafficware, now Cubic, to provide 4 training sessions, as their training sessions, due to the remote setting, can only provide 10 seats at each session. So we contracted with them to provide 4 training sessions with 10 seats each session. We conducted the first session on March 1st to March 4th and had 9 out of 10 attendees complete the training. 1 attendee had to cancel and was not able to attend the training. And on the second session that was conducted on March 8 to March 10, we had all 10 attendees confirm attending. However, during the session, as the session started, we only had 5 out of the 10 attendees complete the training. 2 attendees were canceled kind of at the last stage and were not able to fill their seats, and 3 other attendees did not attend the training. The third session is currently ongoing. We had 9 attendees confirm for this training, and 8 out of the 9 attendees attended the training so far. The last session is planned for next week on April 13 to 15 at 7:30 a.m. to 3:30 a.m. And for that session, we had 4 out of 10 confirm attending that session so far. Jeff, do you want to add?
Yes, thank you, Omar. These virtual training, limited to 10 seats, they are quite expensive and they are valuable regional resources. And I understand that the emergency does happen, but for the second training, half of the attendee had to cancel the training. So moving forward, I think this is something that we want to do better. And since the solicitations is through our ITS committee members, I would hope that the committee member could help provide some oversight when we commit these training from your jurisdictions. Another takeaway is this upcoming training, April 13, there's still a vacancy available. So please think hard and provide Omar the inputs.
Thank you, Jeff. To add to that, for the last session on April 13, I anticipate having 2 seats open. So please do reach out to me. Just send me an email if you have a staff member that would like to attend that session. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Omar. Next item, please. Well, the next item is an update on this ongoing FY 2021 PSOP projects. I'd like to invite Eric. Mr. Nava is the manager of the TSOP program.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the ITS committee. This will be a very quick update on FY21 projects. So all these FY21 list of projects have now been initiated officially. The notice to proceeds have been issued to all the consultants, and all the projects are now up and running. Most, if not all, the projects have had their kickoff meetings, and data collection are now currently underway for most of these projects. And all the projects, again, are anticipated to be completed by the June 30th deadline for this list of projects. One thing I wanted to mention to keep in everyone's mind in the coming months, if you recall, the original plan for these FY21 projects was to spread them over the fall and the spring seasons. But due to the traffic conditions during the COVID-19 pandemic, we had to postpone all the projects to this current spring season. If we are still to attempt spreading out these projects over the fall and the spring seasons, the next call for projects for FY22 projects would need to happen within the upcoming summer months. So this will be a topic of discussion in the coming meetings, probably within the next meeting or so, and some preceding emails to go out to committee members to get a feel for if we still want to do the fall and spring projects for the FY21 or FY22 projects. We want to be able to make that decision fairly quickly, and just wanted to make everyone aware of that future opportunity that will be coming up relatively soon. And that's it for this particular item.
Thank you, Eric.
And
next item, please.
Yes, and that is, I believe, still me as well.
Great. This is still Eric item, so
yes.
Sorry.
It's okay. So this is in regards to a consultant selection for a project called the I-10 Broadway Curve Regional Traffic Signal Plans project. So over the course of the last 1.5 to 2 years, MAG has been providing assistance from a regional perspective for the upcoming I-10 Broadway Curve construction project that is starting late this year and going on for the next 3 or 4 years. There have been a number of traffic management and traffic demand management strategies that have been explored in the last 1.5 to 2 years. Kristen Myers with MAG has presented on that in the past in past ITS committee meetings, and she has been really the ringleader of making sure all these things are being done from MAG's perspective, and so she's been a really great person to lead this effort. Now, during this process, it was determined that a priority should be given to assist local agencies with the management operations of traffic during various phases of the construction of all the reconstruction happening. The I-10 Broadway Curve Signal Timing Project will provide some of that technical assistance in partnership with the local member agencies in the vicinity of the project. This will help to determine traffic signal coordination plans, optimization strategies, and review of operations and the system during closures. So this is really a much larger effort than what we would have done in the past. But MAG has been very dedicated to helping in any way possible for the sake of the region during construction for all partners in this effort. So again, the 3 main pieces that are the goal of this is to provide traffic management strategies of any kind, be it mostly through signal timings, technical assistance and implementation of those things, of those certain strategies that are developed, as well as the coordination and collaboration amongst the agencies. So MAG went out for a request for proposal to gain assistance for doing this large effort. So that RFP went out on January 20th of 2021, and we received 3 proposals. And the evaluation team that was made up of MAG staff and local agency staff met on their final selection on March 2nd, and it was Kimley Horn and Associates that was selected for this particular project. Now, the duration of this project itself is a 44-month effort that will include stakeholder coordination, planning, and timing strategy developments over the course of the entire project. And really the first 6 months, I would say, are mostly on the coordination and planning side, working with our local agencies on the whole collaboration and coordination and determining what are some of the best constraints to our strategies within the vicinity of the construction for local agencies in response to some of the other activities that are going on from the construction side. So we're looking forward to this, and we're looking forward to working with Kimley Horn on this longer duration project for the TSMO group. And that concludes my 2 items.
You're muted, Jeff.
Thank you. Just want to add that this series of efforts that took place years ago was meant to be supplemental to the constructions, the I-10 Broadway curve reconstructions. So the effort that Eric has mentioned, that MAG has conducted a pretty large scale data collections and also use the Dynasty model to envision the bottlenecks of these different closure scenario and all that. There's other effort, related effort to look into the potential alternative route, the ITS capability along these routes for potential improvements. And then finally, this piece is to provide the actual assistance during the 4 years of constructions. With that, I'd like to recognize Eric's contributions with these series of efforts regarding I-10 Broadway curve traffic mitigation. That concludes my program manager's report.
Thank you, Jeff, Omar, and Eric. There are a lot of items there. I don't see any hands up in the chat, but I'd like to give the committee members a moment if you have any questions or comments. All right, seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to item 5 on the agenda, overview of the CMAQ methodology for evaluating proposed ITS project applications. MAG contracted with the Texas Transportation Institute to review and recommend improvements to the current MAG CMAQ methodologies that were last revised in 2011. MAG staff will provide a presentation highlighting the improvements to the MAG CMAQ methodologies and an overview of how it will be used to evaluate ITS and SM&O project applications. I would now like to invite Jeff Jank with MAG to provide an overview of this item. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee members, this particular item concerns our upcoming call for projects expected later this year. As you know, that these in the phase 1 of the SM&O plan, over 90% of the funding source are CMAQ, and there is a need to demonstrate the conformity with the Clean Air Act. And so the CMAQ methodology is important in that it provides the part of the evaluation score input to the final selection of these competitive projects. Today, we're happy to have Mr. Dean Giles of our air quality group, who is the manager of this recently updated methodology. And Dean?
Thank you very much, Jeff. Mr. Chair and members of the ITS committee. Next slide, please. First, some background on the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Improvement Program. The purpose of the CMAQ program is to fund transportation projects and programs that will contribute to attainment or maintenance of federal air quality standards. Next slide, please. And portions of the MAG planning area are non-attainment for 8-hour ozone, PM10, and PM2.5. MAG follows Federal Highway Administration CMAQ guidance. That guidance requires an assessment of the project's expected emission reduction benefits and cost effectiveness. Next slide. MAG developed CMAQ methodologies going back to 1999. These are used to evaluate the proposed projects for the estimated emission reductions and cost effectiveness. And over time, MAG has updated these methodologies to address changes in federal guidance to reflect new project types and also improved technical methods and assumptions. Our last update occurred in 2011. And in 2020, next slide, please. MAG contracted with Texas A&M Transportation Institute. We contracted with them to review our existing MAG CMAQ methodologies, to conduct a review of other CMAQ methodologies used elsewhere in the United States, and to recommend updates to the MAG methodologies. And MAG staff noticed that with the last call for projects, we were seeing some new project types. And so we also asked them to recommend methodologies for these new project types that we were seeing. Next slide. So Texas A&M Transportation Institute provided a report to MAG with some minor updates to the methodologies. These involved updating the emission rates to the new US EPA MOVES 3 motor vehicle emissions model. The MAG methodologies are one of the first in the nation now to incorporate the MOVES 3 motor vehicle emissions rates. One of the other minor modifications to the methodologies was to update values in the methodologies where applicable, to add off-network starts emissions calculations. And Texas A&M also noticed that we needed to expand the vehicle types and fuel types, especially for the alternative fuel vehicles methodology. It also included EPA recommended emissions benefits for retrofit technologies for such things as diesel oxidation catalysts and diesel particulate filters for the diesel retrofit methodology, and the addition of 8 new methodologies. Next slide. These new 8 methodologies include flashing yellow arrow signals for left turns, also includes flashing yellow arrow signals for left turns, projects that improve bicycle and pedestrian projects, the signal prioritization for transit vehicles, signal preemption projects for emergency vehicles, freeway wrong-way driver detection systems, bicycle and pedestrian detection priority signalization systems, project methodology for the acquisition of new buses to expand the fleet or replace existing buses. And the last one here on the list, the regional systems management and operations projects. Next slide, please. So from that list, you'll see that there are several ITS related methodologies, and they're listed here on this slide. These are in addition to the methodologies that were updated. Amongst the new ones, you also see freeway management projects. That has been updated in this current revision. ITS projects also updated, and traffic signal coordination methodology has been updated in this recent revision. Next slide, please. So in this slide, what we wanted to mention is how these different project types contribute towards reduced emissions. And so typically, these methodologies are able to reduce emissions through a reduction in vehicle delay. So I won't read all of these on the slide, but you can see that for the majority of the project types, it's the reduction in vehicle delay and or increased vehicle speeds. Next slide. And then again here, with the signal preemption projects for emergency vehicles, the assumption used in the methodology is that it will reduce emergency vehicle response time, that creates less impact on traffic. And for signal prioritization of transit vehicles, it will contribute to a reduction in delay of transit vehicles and increases transit vehicle speed. And in addition to that, the methodology assumes that there's some vehicle miles of travel reduced by an increase in transit ridership with that new transit vehicle. Next slide, please. So the MAG-CMAC methodologies calculates the estimated emission reductions for carbon monoxide, volatile organic compounds, nitrogen oxides, and particulate matter, PM10, in kilograms per day. Now in here, the VOCs, volatile organic compounds and nitrogen oxides, are precursors to the formation of ozone. It applies, the methodologies apply a seasonal factor and weights to the emissions reduced for each pollutant. It converts emission reductions from kilograms per day to metric tons per year. And in the cost recovery factor, it amortizes the CMAQ cost over the life of the project. And for ITS projects, the useful life of a project is assumed to be 5 years. And then to calculate the cost effectiveness, it's done by dividing the annualized CMAQ cost by the annual emissions reduction. Next slide, please. So we wanted to provide a committee with an example of the updated methodology for traffic signal coordination project. And here we're going to calculate the cost effectiveness where we will be needing the CMAQ funding requested. Here we have the length of the project and other variables that are requested in the project application. And then MAG staff will be calculating the emission reduction using the following equations on the next slide, please. So first we're calculating the vehicle emissions reduced. And this methodology was updated to include off-peak emissions rates for vehicles. And then, so we come up with an estimate of 0.640 kilograms per day. And next we're calculating the cost recovery factor using the assumed life of 5 years for ITS projects. And then in the last equation, we have the cost effectiveness that is calculated at $126,097 per metric ton. Next slide, please. And then one of the last steps in the evaluation of CMAQ projects is to account for other project elements that have occurred in the same geographic area. For example, in the same corridor. In previous updates to the MAG-CMAQ methodology, Texas Transportation Institute had commented that we needed to be careful about double counting emission reductions. So in this case, it accounts for other project elements that have been previously programmed in the MAG tip. And so MAG will be allocating emission reductions to the new project in proportion to the vehicle miles of travel that the project reduces. And in the next slide, MAG conducted a webinar on the draft CMAQ methodologies on February 11th, 2021. MAG sent an invitation for members of the MAG Management Committee and the Texas Transportation, A&M Transportation Institute conducted a webinar highlighting the new CMAQ methodologies. And the comments received from the webinar were incorporated into the final report. On March 25th, the Air Quality Technical Advisory Committee reviewed the methodologies. And the next step for the methodologies is to utilize them in the upcoming MAG call for projects in August to September. And last slide, please. For additional information on the MAG CMAQ methodologies, the entire report has been posted on the MAG website at the following address. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean. This is an important update concerning our funding eligibility. And I want to thank our air quality group for listening to us from our previous experiences, and the new type of ITS project certainly makes sense to me. And I know the methodology, like Dean said, that this is ongoing. There will be ongoing update as the regulations and as our deploying scenario changes. So with that, this is a timely update that it will be reflected in our upcoming August 2nd competitive call for project. Thank you, Dean.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Dean. Are there any comments from the committee? Okay, so this is definitely timely given the upcoming call for projects. So thank you, everyone. With this, we will move on to item 6 on the agenda, which is the City of Tempe Unified Arid and ETSPM Management Platform. The City of Phoenix has been actively utilizing Arid sensors to collect travel times, measure delay, and collect various other metrics to gauge signal timing improvements. The city will now present their experiences and discuss future plans on Arid sensor deployment. At this time, I'd like to invite Jeff Jenk with MAG to provide an overview of this item. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. City of Phoenix cover is one of the largest agency in the region that has way over thousands intersections, signalized intersections. And over the year, City of Phoenix, with this unique challenges, they are also the first to adopt these new tools. As committee might remember, years ago, City of Phoenix has presented on and shared their experience of using the INRIX data for systematic monitoring of this traffic condition. And this presentation is yet another update on City of Phoenix effort of using the ATSPM Arid. And I know there are several other typical ITS devices and that got integrated in this unified platform that Simon is going to present. So with that, I would like to invite Simon to give this presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Jack. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
So, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for having me today. I'm going to go ahead and give a brief overview of what City of Phoenix has done with our Arid system and also include the ATS BGAM plans. Next slide, please. So to give everybody a little bit of background, we got just under 500 air assist sensors throughout the valley. So pretty good area covered. About 92 VSO sensors, that's volume, speed, occupancy. And basically that's the video detection that we've got integrated throughout our city. Just recently, we just deployed another 100 DA400s developed by EDI. And of course, we already had some existing DA400s, but basically we got about 150 DA400s peppered through our city. Also, with the new addition, I wanted to highlight any member agency does log in with their domain, then their logo will pop up on the platform screen. So that way, I actually like it myself. It gives the agency a sense of ownership and pride. And if you want to share it with your staff or say for the management, that it looks a little fancier. So next slide, please. So we do have some participating agencies. I did want to acknowledge City of Glendale, ADOT, Peoria, City of Chandler, Maricopa County, and City of Surprise. And of course, with April's Railroad Adaptive and Dunlap and Olive project, this is just going to bring on more air sensors and performance measures onto the platform itself. So thank you, everyone that is supporting this platform. Next slide, please. So of course, everyone that here is Arid. It's pretty much, especially in this region, it's basically solidified in the back of our minds that Arid is related now to travel times and delay. So I won't go too far into much detail. We've seen these travel time charts and delay charts. I will mention that over the times, the travel time accuracy and metrics have gotten a lot better. But as far as the vehicle delay, it's still a bit questionable, and let's just say my confidence is I'm going to need a little bit more convincing from the industry itself. Next slide, please. So, in addition, the company FLIR purchased a Cyclica, and I'm not sure if everybody knows that, but you know it now, and they've actually started integrating their video detection into the Cyclica platform. So we can actually get the visual representation or tabular data out of the video detection system and actually get some useful data. Next slide, please. So one example, of course, is once you get your tabular turning movement counts, you can implement them and start developing models and refine your traffic signal timing. So one point I did want to mention was that the cost benefit of itself of having this technology available is roughly if we request a contractor to get turning movement counts at a certain location, it's going to run us about anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a day. So imagine if you can have this data available to you 365 days out of the year, we're talking a substantial amount of funding. So next slide, please. So pretty neat automated reports, and this is what really attracted me as far as the intuitiveness of the platform itself is as traffic engineers, particularly anywhere, how much time do we have to actually go through our data and actually interpret it and then of course act on it. With this mechanism in place with our automated reports, we can set up report systems to get emailed to us directly every day, hourly, weekly, however you see fit, you can customize it. But this is just to give you an example. The first chart here on the left and with the red arrow is pointing, for a week's worth of data, and there's the travel time report just below or the summary. And of course, I wanted to highlight this corridor itself since this is right now MAG is promoting and funded the no traffic project currently being deployed from Glendale from Central to SR 51. So next slide, please. So I pulled up 4 charts. These are 4 weeks in a row, and you can see very easily, exactly how this corridor is behaving. And if anyone can take a quick look at the color coding, you can easily determine what are the weekend days. Of course, it's the turquoise and the dark blue. Next slide, please. So one huge benefit is the automated turning room accounts information. So this also too can be formulated into a report and get emailed to you, and you can also put these into your models or determine traffic patterns, and also share this with agencies. I see this as a useful tool that MAG themselves can actually put this information and data into their TDMS system. Also, I wanted to add that we've hired Kimberly Horn to validate the turning movement count accuracy, the reliability of the detection, and also the accuracy of the speed data. Next slide, please. One feature that really caught my attention was the ability to remote into the cameras and, of course, have them all in one system. Of course, everybody using vehicle detection systems out there, normally you would have to log into a browser, find your camera, one individual camera, open it up, and of course you get the live feed. The only disadvantage of this is a still image, but of course with the still image, you can actually get a lot of information out from your corridor or intersection. Next slide, please. And of course, you can open up multiple images as well. And so the statement below is increases real-time visual capabilities by 15%. With Phoenix, we have roughly about 300 PTZ cameras throughout the city. And of course, we can't possibly cover right now all locations, but we're taking advantage of our video detection systems to give us that information that we need, so we can also traffic monitor and act on them as well. Next slide, please. So here is a list of alerts that they've been developed, I believe, in the last year and a half. And let you go ahead and absorb some of that information here. I did want to point out for the cabinet alerts. So not only the cyclical platform we found value for on the engineering side or the planning side, but also on the maintenance and operations side, where they can get these alerts in real time. Next slide, please. And all of these alerts, you can actually set up your thresholds. One feature or mapping feature they did add is the downtown real-time traffic data. And this example here was, I believe, was taken last summer when downtown was basically closed for the downtown riots, and it does seem pretty accurate. So, next slide, please. So ATSPMs, what we all really now is solidified here in the Valley, and also cabinet tools. These are all features that you can find on the platform, and I'll go through every one of these. Next slide, please. So percent arrivals on red. Basically, you can pull your the window of time that you basically want to get the information from, exactly how well your signals are performing. And of course, these are all based on approaches. And this chart here is for the eastbound movement. Next slide, please. Of course, we all seen the Purdue coordination diagrams and how to interpret them. Of course, the goal is to get many actuations, which are represented by the black dots. And you want to get more clustering within the green zone. Of course, the arrivals on red and fewer in the red. Sorry, arrivals on green. But if I can ask, can we go back one slide? And then you can go forward one slide. So these two charts really correlate with one another. So I've asked the developer to basically integrate the two. So coming soon, very soon, hopefully, is one could pull up the Purdue coordination diagram and then basically get the same information, basically what percentage is in the green and what's in the red. And basically you can zoom in into the window of a time frame or particularly your time of day plan and make that evaluation yourself. So basically, in a nutshell, why use two charts when you can just have all the data in one in front of you. Next slide, please. Pedestrian delay, sorry. So one chart I do find useful. Of course, we can make determinations on exactly how often can we violate the split when we're running coordination plans, or do we need to actually accommodate the split time with the pedestrian actuations because well, we can't do anything about that. There's just going to be there, but basically this gives us the information to make that determination. So just to read this chart here, the lines in the dot represents basically the actuations, and the height of the dot or the line is the pedestrian delay, or how long the pedestrian actually have to wait until they got served. So, next slide, please. So I won't go too much into the vehicle delay. So as a treat, I'll give you a background or a story on the pedestrian delay feature. So about last spring, we were asked by our director's office to evaluate our pedestrian hawk timing. We were getting multiple complaints. We did have some of them running coordination plans. And of course, typical response, if something's running in coordination, the side streets, normally going to have to wait. But of course, we're talking about pedestrian safety, and pedestrian safety countermeasures is what Phoenix is now promoting for. We wanted to start evaluating exactly what can we do to improve our pedestrian hawk timings. So, especially if the pedestrian's out in 120-degree weather or if it's monsoon season. I mean, nobody doesn't have to. Nobody wants to wait if they don't have to. So, next slide, please. So we started on and wanted to start thinking outside of the box with the signal timing. And typically, and if you look at the pie chart on the left, how we normally plan to do the pedestrian signal timing is basically we calculate the clearances. What does the pedestrian need to cross the street with? And of course, that is accommodated, but it's only a small portion of the cycle length, and that's represented in the blue. And given the fact, and that's why I put a time space diagram on the side, well, you can still maintain progression, and 9 times out of 10, you don't need 60, 80 seconds of time because your band to have that progression is roughly anywhere from 20 seconds to 35 seconds-ish. So why give so much time if you don't need it? Basically, we kind of interpreted that as wasted time. So start looking outside of the box, we said, you know what, we can actually give that time of the 30 seconds to the vehicle and the rest of the time to the pedestrian. So I'm not a statistical expert, but basically it's when a pedestrian call comes in, we're talking about a random event. So of course, if you give the random event more of an opportunity of time to land somewhere, you know, right now on the chart to the right in the blue, then chances are they're going to get served much faster. So, next slide, please. So lo and behold, I did respond to the director's office, and I did let Bruce know that we did improve the signal timing. And next thing he tells me is show me. So here we go with data. And what I did was I pulled the TransSuite data, and it's out of the split logger feature from April 27th to April 30th. And I believe we put the timing change in somewhere around April 29th. And if you can see the trend that the wait time did go down. So I'll give a brief description on what you're looking at here. So the blue lines or the bars represents pedestrian actuations. Of course, the height of the bar is basically the delay or how long it took for the pedestrian to get served. Next slide, please. So anybody that is real privy to data analytics, well, you need a bigger sample rate. So what I did was I did open up the window with a larger span of time. This right here would be the before from April 20th to April 29th. And if you notice that there were a lot of actuations, roughly around a 70 to 72 second delay. Actually, that actually had the most actuations. And after putting in the signal timing, now I'm sorry, if I didn't mention it, this is a histogram. So, next slide, please. So this is the histogram for the after from April 29th to May 1st, and you can clearly see the trend. The delay actuations went down and further to it trended more to the left, which indicated a lower delay in seconds. So why am I showing you this? One, comparing this with the Acyclica pedestrian delay charts. This took me about an hour and a half to 2 hours to put these charts together. And of course, there's only 3 charts, but imagine doing this for 65 hops every month. So, next slide, please. So one feature is the current state. Of course, an operations function I see is you can actually pick up the phone or your smart device, and you can, in real time, you can see the statuses of your signals. I did ask the developer for the ped head indication to be developed. So it's not a traffic signal indication. Right now it looks like a flashing yellow if a ped indication is going off. So, next slide, please. So also you can see the health of the cabinet. You can actually check and see what the temperature it is inside the cabinet, what time and when the fan actually goes off, the health and voltages of the DA 400 or 300. And of course, you can set these thresholds also. Next slide, please. RYG or red, yellow, green movement, very useful tool. So the top lines with the red and the green is basically the status of the phase indication. And the 2 or 3 lines below it is the status or state of the detector actuations. Okay. You can correlate these with detector actuations. Well, right above it, it better have a green indication showing that it did get served. Neat feature about these, you can set up alerts. If you have a stuck detector, you can get alerted. Or if you have no actuations, you can also get alerted. And you can set these actuations and thresholds per time of day. Next slide, please. Here's a zoomed in version of one of the charts. And I just wanted to indicate on the bottom chart, the westbound to southbound left turn. You can see there was a actuation at 1240, but the left turn did not get served. So it may be an anomaly or something that maintenance may want to look into to see if, if the controller is functioning properly, or maybe you had an inclusion of another vehicle with the through detection. Who knows? Next slide, please. And of course, I did mention it previously, but this is what it looks like, and you can access this information from your smart device or tablet. So one advantage of this with making this available to your operations team is if they're at home or on call, they don't have to log in VPN. I mean, this literally comes up in seconds. And you can also get flash alerts as well if the signal is in flash. Next slide, please. And that pretty much wraps it up for me. I'll leave it open for any questions or discussion. Thank you.
I have a question for Simon. Great presentations. Regarding ATSPM, it's my understanding that the high resolution controller event data, that's what typically referred to the ATSPM raw data, exists in this newer breed of controller that's built into it. So question to you is, City of Phoenix still have a large percentage of these intersections still using ASC2, I believe, the older version of the controller. So the statistics that you showed, arrival on green, or those ATSPM related matrices, are they just from those newer intersection with the ASC3, or I also saw the EDI data aggregator 400 you have that claim to also provide some of the ATSPM data. Are you also using the EDI for providing ATSPM data at those locations where you have the old controller?
Yes, we are. So as far as the how granular that data is, of course, going from an AAC2 to AAC3 or Cobalt, you're talking 1 second amount of data or per 1/10 of a second, and that's the resolution basically. And what you're seeing about the DA300 or 400 is a profile device. Basically, it takes that information from the controller, and of course, what that resolution is basically what you're going to get out of it. So we have deployed some intersections that do have AAC3s, but comparing that data with an AAC3 or Cobalt, you can definitely see the difference between the two.
So a related comment would be ATSPM is the trend. It's a good source of performance information when it comes to optimizing traffic signal operation. And want to recognize that regionally, McDOT, Ms. April Wire has led the effort in the regional deployment of ATSPM. In that I meant we deployed the UDA version of the software. So I saw in Simon's presentation, those ATSPM measures were really a subset. Well, some of them are the subset of in the UDA version, but there are also some of the kind of improved measure, like Simon said, that you kind of put 2 or 3 diagrams in one, right, to show the different data element in one graph. So I don't know if Ms. April Wire has any comment or thought to share, because the county is still leading the charge, deploying the UDA version.
Yeah, and so I can comment a little bit. So Jeff is talking about the Aztec ATSPM platform, and he is right, we're using the UDOT open source version. So the benefit of us doing that is that we can integrate, as part of that platform, we can integrate other agencies. And so right now, I forget how many agencies are participating, but I want to say there's about a dozen agencies participating, and there are opportunities to bring on more agencies as well. So if your agency has an interest in being part of the ATSPM regional platform, definitely reach out to me and I can get the ball rolling on that. We do have some projects coming online to help advance our ATSPM with better metrics and just on the back end, separating out the agencies onto their own separate servers so that we can get more watchdog alerts by agency instead of as a whole system in a sense. So that means that, Tempe would get only Tempe's alerts. McDOT would only get McDOT alerts related to our own and maintain traffic signals instead of McDOT seeing all of Tempe's alerts and, vice versa or whatnot. So that's where we're trying to do some things on the back end as existing projects that are coming online. Another thing that we're doing is doing kind of an ATSPM assessment. So Simon actually touched on this quite a bit as far as proposing overlaying of like kind data on top of each other. So you get one chart instead of having to do that, eyeballing yourself. We are looking for feedback as far as that, like metrics like that we can develop as part of our ATSPM platform, and also throw back to the open source ATSPM community so other agencies can grab that as well. We're trying to keep it as, like agency helping agency, states helping states develop this more, instead of having to go to a vendor subscription-based paid solution on, reoccurring costs like that. So that is one of our goals with ATSPMs on the regional platform, and also helping smaller agencies that don't have, the reoccurring budget to maintain an ATSPM system, or even being able to set the open source one up on their own, because there is a little bit of expertise that needs to be, you need to have to be able to do that. I personally don't have that. So that's why I lean to some of our other McDOT team members to help us with the implementation aspects of ATSPM in the software. So yeah, I just want to remind people, honestly, that we do have a regional platform for ATSPM, and if that's something we need to talk about more, or you want to be part of, like, definitely reach out to me and I can get the ball rolling on that and kind of help with those things. And then I do have a question for Simon. If no one has any questions for me, like Simon, you've mentioned some of the like alerts coming through your ATSPM system. How has a lot of those same alerts are coming through your central system? How has that changed your operations in a sense? Like, are you using your central system less because you have this ATSPM platform that pushes those same alerts? Or are you still using your central system as much as what you were?
Yeah, I'm actually glad you asked that, and Bruce is in the room to hear that. Considering the central system that we have, we've complemented one another. So there are some shortfalls on our ATMS, but yes, some of you do have the benefit of a more advanced ATMS system, and a lot of these SPMs are provided within the system themselves. But yeah, to answer your question, we pretty much run them side by side and take advantage of both features.
I have a question for April. Is it true that if an agency has their own ATSPM dashboard, or is currently using their own ATSPM platform, in this case, a Cyclica, in the case of Peoria, for instance, could be Interlight. So they could still contribute the ATSPM high resolution event data to the Aztec system.
Correct, because that high resolution data coming from the controller is the same data. So yeah, that's a very good point, Jeff. I'm glad you brought that up, that even if agencies are using their own vendor solution ATSPM system, we would still like to see everyone's data into the ATSPM system, because we are in the process, McDOT anyways is piloting the Mark 1 performance metric that was developed by Georgia DOT, and it just looks at more corridor by corridor analysis and has a nice dashboard. So you can focus on, instead of intersection by intersection and not really knowing where to start, but corridor by corridor, and like going at that level and breaking it down more. And so some of our initial conversations as far as like, seeing how that progresses is having the regional priority corridors built into the Mark 1 metric, and being able to pull metrics like that for like the performance indicators book that Aztec puts out biannually, to have more like historical data and same format, same source, a little bit easier to pull, more of a dashboard like approach or whatever, that's real time live. So that's like the ultimate vision that we have with ATSPMs being at a corridor level for the region, so everyone can pop into that website and see how each of your corridors of significance are performing, and kind of hone into, okay, now I have a better idea of what corridors are underperforming. This is where I need to focus my resources, and so yes, back to Jeff's point is if you pretty much we can at least talk about if your infrastructure as far as the traffic signal is up to date and current enough and is collecting that high resolution data to feed into our ATSPM system. And even if you're using your own vendor paid for solution, we would still like to see that data pulled into our Aztec ATSPM platform for a better look as far as the region on where we are.
Thank you, April. I have one more question for you. I think in this presentation that Simon just made, I also learned about the alternate source of these high resolution controller event data, because typically we expect those built into the newer breed of controller, but Simon demonstrated that using device like a EDI data aggregator, they were able to generate these controller event data, not exactly as high resolution, being 1/10 of a second, but rather at 1 second interval. But those are still in the same format as the ATSPM of a lesser resolution. The question is, can the UDA software take those lower resolution data and make use of it?
Yeah, that is something I learned myself, and maybe we can take that offline and have a conversation with Rob Barberry, who leads a lot of our, RADs, ATSPM data, backend stuff, and see what we can do with it. Because honestly, my opinion is even if it's a second, like it's reported each second instead of 1/10 of a second, that's better than nothing. And like we can get a lot of the same, at least like information out of it, even if it's not as granular as every 1/10 of a second. It's still worthwhile data to be looking at. So yeah, let's definitely have a conversation offline.
Great. Looks like we have a comment from Steve McKenzie.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention too that even though we are using the Analyte product for our ATMS software, we're number one, they're going through a big transition right now, so we're going to be upgrading. It's no longer going to be the MaxView platform. It's going to be called I believe it's Kinetic or Connects is going to be their new platform, and it still has the ATSPMs. We're going to have to rebuild all those, from my understanding, but we do plan on pushing that data out. I think the one thing to keep in mind too, though, is on several of our corridors, including the upcoming Olive Avenue adaptive project, and as well as the Bell that's ongoing, we can still get some good ATSPM data out of those Cyclica or DA 400s or road trends or whatever we have out there, because the controllers are when you're doing adaptive, they go into a free state, and the adaptive, in our case the rhythm technology, takes over and puts the calls in. And so I think it's still good to have both. We're not just going to be reliant on our ATMS software for some of our corridors to just see how they're still performing. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there too.
Thank you, Steve. Are there any other comments from the committee members?
This is April with McDot again. Just to build on to Steve's comments a little bit, I completely agree that, in my opinion, I think that the ATSPM data and the Arid data are two separate things. Like Arid data gives you really good travel time data, but then the ATSPM data gives you more granular, traffic signal operations data. So it is two completely separate things and two very necessary things.
Couldn't agree more. This has been a great discussion. Thank you, everyone. And look forward to future updates on this topic. One final chance, any additional questions or comments on this? Obviously, there's a lot of interest in it. So thank you, Simon, for sharing your experiences and insights, as well as April. All right, with that, we'll move on to item 7 on the agenda, which is a request for future agenda items. Does any member of the ITS committee have a topic or issue of interest that you would like to have considered for discussion at a future meeting? If so, now is your opportunity to raise your hand in the chat window or speak up to be recognized. All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item 8, comments from the ITS committee members. Beginning with Susan, I would like to invite members to share information related to ongoing ITS-related project activities in your jurisdiction. Susan?
Oh, good morning, all. I really don't have an update today. Thank you, though.
Thank you. Hugh, any updates?
Nothing from Goodyear. Thank you.
Thank you. Tricia?
No updates from Mesa today.
Thank you. Alan?
Nothing from Glendale. Thank you.
Thank you. Albert, anything from Surprise?
No, nothing from Surprise today.
Srini?
Nothing major. Our Arid device project, citywide Arid device project design has been underway. We are like close to 95% complete, and clearances are on the way. Looking forward to get the design done and go to the construction. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you. Hong?
Nothing to update.
All right. Bruce?
Nothing from Phoenix.
All right. I'll give a quick update for Tempe. The city currently has an advertisement out for a civil engineer / senior civil engineer in the traffic engineering group. The recruitment's open until a position is filled, but the first review is tomorrow. So if you have not yet applied, you should do that quickly. The city began construction of our second roundabout on April 5th, and that's going to be at Priest and Grove Parkway. Our first roundabout was actually in the downtown area around Rio Salado and Ash on the streetcar alignment. So this will be our second. And we're also going to be starting work very shortly at University and Rural, doing some major intersection improvements. So I would suggest you avoid the area unless you need to go through there. There's a lot of construction going on with the Novus project with ASU. They're working on a new pedestrian walkway across University in that area. So a lot of activity going on. And with that, I'd like to next call on Steve.
Just two quick projects. We just completed about a 24 camera replacement. We're starting to try and make sure we're seeing that the CCTVs that we're using are lasting about 4 years, and so we're trying to be a little proactive. We just replaced 20 of our oldest, 20 plus of our oldest cameras out there. Hoping to do something similar this next year. And we also turned on another signal this week. It's for a fire station, so it's a fairly minor signal. However, this was the first time that we weren't able to put any type of basically preemption because of state right-of-way or state land on the south side of the project that we couldn't put anything in. And so it's actually the preemption's activated in the fire station when they go to open their doors, and it's proved to have some interesting timing challenges of making sure that we know exactly how long it takes them to actually leave the station once they've opened the door, so that the signal actually triggers when it should. But that one's on now, and that's, I guess, officially probably our 131st signal, and We expect to see a bunch more this year.
All right, thank you, Steve. Eduardo?
Nothing from Maricopa.
Thank you. Marshall?
Yeah, we had our TSOP kickoff meeting this morning for the downtown grid optimization on our Ellsworth demo project. We expect to have optimized, recommended new traffic pattern or signal patterns in the next 2 weeks. So we'll be able to talk about that a little bit more sometime soon. We also have a traffic engineer position advertised. I think a lot of those are out there right now, so we're all going to be looking for the same person. And we have 70 signals in town now, so we're putting them up at a pretty rapid clip. That's it.
Thank you, Marshall. Raquel?
Nothing from Apache Junction.
Thank you. Ward, anything from Avondale?
We've got underway with our Avondale TSOP project. Just started it basically last week. As well as our Arid project is progressing through. We're meeting today with ADOT for our 100% submittal, and that's about it.
Thank you. Mike, anything from Town of Gilbert?
We have a lot of ongoing projects, adding communications throughout town, but nothing that stands out. We hired a couple of people recently and just did interviews for a plan reviewer for traffic engineering just yesterday. And we had a few good candidates, but I know we'll be advertising at least one more position soon out of our traffic engineering group. But that's about it.
Thank you, Mike. Tessa, anything from El Mirage?
Nothing to report from El Mirage.
Thank you. John, anything from City of Buckeye?
Yes, good morning. Couple of things. One, we activated a signal officially about 3 or 4 weeks ago at Thomas and Verado, right next to elementary school. Yesterday, we turned another signal on flash. It'll get activated. It serves the Verado High School driveway. What else? We were working on our MAG projects. I think the camera project should be advertised. Camera procurement should be advertised any day. We just kicked off the ITS project. As several others have mentioned, we are looking for somebody to basically help me since it is only me. So we have an advertisement out on the street for a project engineer traffic, and I think that's about it. Thank you.
All right. April, anything from McDonald?
Just a couple of things. We did kick off our 99th Avenue project for Dynamic Max TSOP project with the City of Glendale as well. So should be interesting. A lot of good questions were asked on the consultant side on how to proceed with that project. So very good. And then an update on the Bell Road Phase 2 and the Olive Dunlop Adaptive Signal Control Technology projects. Red Hawk is the vendor that was selected with Rhythm Engineering's InSync. They have started pulling the cables and started some of the work on that. So it's moving forward pretty aggressively. So we're very excited to see that kick off. And then also we have several job openings with Nicholas Schwartz leaving. Right now, Randy Dunsey is our interim TSM division manager. So a lot of movement. If you're interested, definitely look on McDot's website for job postings.
Thank you. I think that's a good sign to see for the economy and everything that so many positions are opening up. So that's definitely good news. And last but not least, Marty with Valley Metro. I didn't mention anything about streetcar, so it's all yours.
Thank you. I don't really have any major updates on streetcar, but I just want to thank the city of Phoenix. We completed 2 pretty major single tracking events in downtown for the South Central and Downtown Hub project, which included a lot of coordination with signals to make sure that we could run trains on the reverse tracks on First Avenue, Central, as well as Jefferson and Washington. So we'll be doing more of that in the future, and stay tuned. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Is there anyone I missed in the roll call? All right, I think I got everybody. With that, the next meeting of the ITS committee will be held at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, May 5th. And that will still be held virtually unless you get a different notification. And with that, thank you everyone for your time. This meeting is adjourned. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.